Hi guys, today's video is going to be about, well, the title. I came across this astounding fact that Americans, 45% to 50% of Americans don't believe in the theory of evolution. Now, I'm a biochemist, I'm in my last year of my degree, and pretty much everything that we do revolves around the theory of evolution, so I find it very hard to try to understand why people don't agree with it. Now, quite a lot of people seem to have a religious issue with it, in that if they're religious, they generally don't believe in the theory of evolution, and those who aren't religious just have a genuine lack of understanding. Now, I'm going to go through the arguments that I've heard. First of all, the religious ones, and then the ones that people make that they just don't understand the theory of evolution. So the first religious piece of, well, you can't call it evidence, because it isn't. You know, what about religion is ever to do with evidence? The first one is absolutely ridiculous, which is the Bible doesn't say anything about evolution. That evolution contradicts what it says in the Bible. Now, first of all, the issue I have with that is you can't prove whether the Bible was written by a messenger of God or indeed God himself. Any old crackpot could have written it. So, you know, the Bible immediately is invalidated as a valid source of information. So therefore we can just get rid of that argument altogether, because it's useless. The second argument that is religious based is perhaps more intelligent, and it says that what we believe about the creation of the world and the universe shapes how we are going to treat human beings. So, for example, if we believe that a loving God created human beings in his own image, and each individual is a son of God and a daughter, that we are more likely, if we believe that, we are more likely to treat each other with respect and dignity. Now, I can kind of understand this, because it does kind of make sense. Although despite this, what you have to remember is you always have to remember facts. No matter how much you don't want something to be, if it is, it is. And that's just the way life goes. And unfortunately, Darwinian natural selection, which is the process by which evolution conducts itself, is very unfair, and indeed a society built around these principles would not be a good one to live in. You know, and I think that also, even if religious principles are the best way to set up a society, what does that have anything to do with the origin of the universe? It doesn't have anything to do with the origin of the universe, and it shouldn't affect the theory of evolution, and it shouldn't affect what people believe about the theory of evolution. It shouldn't have any part in science. The way you set up a society, the way that you analyse the universe and the world should be two completely different things. And that's that, right? Forget about the religious stuff now, onto the genuine misunderstandings and misinterpretations of the theory of evolution. Now, the biggest mistake that people make when they talk about the theory of evolution is, how can the theory of evolution be real when we've got all of this complexity in life? You know, the structure of an eye is really so complex. The structure of the liver is so complex. How can all of this complexity exist based upon the theory of evolution, which is down to random chance? Now, first of all, the theory of evolution is not random. There are elements of chance in it. The only element of chance is the point mutations that are made. So you'll have an organism it will accumulate point mutations. Those insert in random places in the genome. However, the process from here on out is completely systematic and non-random, because what happens here is that those point mutations in the genome confer certain phenotypes. Those phenotypes can be either advantageous or disadvantageous, and that organism is then selected for or against depending on whether it's advantageous or disadvantageous, and therefore undesirable traits, i.e. undesirable genes, are eliminated systematically from species, from populations. So what you get is designed designed organisms that, well, they look designed, they're not actually designed, but sort of the universe designs them as just a natural part of, all these processes going on. The last argument I would like to outline is one that I can kind of see what they're getting at, which is that quite a lot of people state that there is no evidence of macroevolution. So there is no evidence going from one species to another species. So, for example, like a monkey to a human. Now, I think the misinterpretation here is about what evidence is. It's not any misinterpretation of what the theory of evolution is about. It's more to do with a misinterpretation of what evidence is. See, people seem to think that evidence is something that conclusively proves something. And this isn't really what evidence is at all. Evidence points towards directions in which your hypothesis can go, but it doesn't actually it doesn't actually conclusively prove something a lot of the time. So, for example, the main bit of evidence I would say for the theory of evolution is the DNA code, the fact that every organism on this planet has similarities in their DNA. And you can look at this and you say, this looks like a family tree. So, for example, humans, monkeys, and dogs. Humans have more similar DNA patterns to monkeys than we do dogs, and dogs have more in common with monkeys than they do with us. So, I'm just using this example. I don't actually know whether that's the case, but let's say we find this, and you do find that in quite a lot of different organisms. But so, if you found this piece of evidence, what you have to ask yourself is, why is this the case? Now, we know that parents, when they have children, their DNA is very similar to the children's. However, their DNA compared to anyone else's child is a lot more different. So we've got similarities here. We've got the human family tree, and then we've got the macro family tree, all of the species. So you can see a similarity. So that's a piece of it. That's the strongest piece of evidence for the theory of evolution, that we can see almost something that resembles a family tree throughout the whole of life. And this idea of the whole family tree is also backed up by fossil records. It's also backed up by the very fact that we just look like monkeys, and the fact that you can see similarities between monkeys, us, and monkeys and dogs, monkeys and birds. You see tiny little similarities. The further you go down the evolutionary tree, the less obvious those similarities are, but they're there. I can kind of understand their point, saying that there's no evidence for evolution from going from one species to another, because you can't experimentally prove it. You can't show one species going to another by inducing point mutations, because you can do that in the lab, but you can't get something to evolve from one to another. Genetics is too complicated for you to do that. But one experiment that is ongoing, that will prove eventually that evolution is indefinitely true, is the ongoing experiments, because as I said, in biochemistry, in the field of biology, you base everything, pretty much everything you do, on the theory of evolution. And if all of these experiments are based on the theory of evolution, then this should give you an indication of whether the theory of evolution is accurate or not. Because if these experiments turn out to be utter rubbish, then the theory of evolution is then suspect. So far this hasn't happened. So this does give you an indication as to whether as to the strength of the theory of evolution. And the whole point of theories is that you subject them to the test of time. And it's like the theory of gravity. The theory of gravity has stood the test of time, just as the theory of evolution will do. I hope. So remember, be open-minded and don't be deluded. Ta-da!